Hello. This video is a very brief introduction to the relevance of time value of money in financial decision making. Think of it as sort of an introductory to a discussion that will go into more detail about certain topics. So, um, in business, we try to make financial decisions um, based on the fact that we have choices, and usually those choices have cash flows associated with them, and the cash flows, maybe we're paying something out or we're receiving something in, and we want to make the best choice that we can make. Now, the rules for that are pretty simple. They're no different than they are for anybody else. Ideally, we wouldn't want to pay more for something than it's worth, um, than what we would pay if we could get it in some other way. And so, there's the idea of either knowing the value or knowing the value of an alternative and selecting the alternative that gets us basically the same thing for less. And similarly, if we're receiving, we shouldn't accept less for something than it's worth, or that we could receive by doing a similar thing in maybe a different way. And so, there's the alternative of either receiving, for example, something now or receiving it over time, and we would rather make the decisions that give us the best overall value. In the decisions, again, it usually takes the form of receiving or paying. If we're given the choice for receiving something, then we always want the choice that gives us the most value. If we're going to pay something, we prefer the choice that gives us the least value. And bottom line is we rely on two concepts, financial concepts, for that. Now, nothing I've said before is earth-shaking. I mean, yes, it is the fundamental underlying principle of finance. Don't overpay for things. Don't accept less than what you are due. It's just like it is in any other walk of business. So that's not where the complexity in finance comes from. It doesn't come from figuring out that I should take the thing that's worth the most or pay the least. It's really figuring out what it is, the value of the thing. So how do I know that this option is worth more than that option? How do I know that this payment is less than that payment plan? And so that's where we rely on two basic financial concepts, present value and future value. Talk about future value first. Future value is the amount that you would accept in the future instead of receiving a payment today. So in a lot of times, in our case, that usually is like an example of an investment. I will forego some amount of money today, so I won't spend it today. Instead, I will put it into an investment. But I'll only do that if I can expect that in the future, when I withdraw it from that investment, there will be more money there than what I put in. And so, if in the future there's more money and it's enough more money, then I will accept waiting until the future to use that money rather than using it now instead of investing it. And you can also think of it from a payment standpoint, not only a receipt standpoint. If I chose to make a payment not today, but I'm going to make a payment to somebody in the future, I can anticipate in the same way that they're going to want more of a payment in the future. So if I choose to not make the payment today, maybe so that I have use of the cash today, then I need to understand that in the future I'm likely going to have to pay more. And I need to understand how much that more is so that I can then make the choice between whether it's better off for me to pay it now or pay it later. The flip side of that is present value. And so present value, instead of thinking about what the value in the future is going to be, we're really focused on today. And so it's the opposite side of the coin. And so it says, Present value is more about if I was given an option, say, of receiving future payments, maybe lottery payments over a period of time, or the option of getting something today as a payment, then present value would tell me what payment I would need today in order to be equal to the payments, the future value payments that I could get in the future. Same thing with paying. If I have an option of either making payments in the future or paying it all now, let's just say that I'm deciding whether I'm going to buy something on credit or buy it with cash now, then present value would give me a way of looking at what those future payments are and what their present value is, and deciding whether or not, for me, it makes more sense to pay it now or pay it in the future. And so the two are very closely related. It really is a situation where you're always making a choice between now and in the future in both of these instances. The question is, what do you know and what do you not know? So in the instance of present value, we know about the things that are going to happen in the future, and we want to figure out what the current payment that would be equivalent to those future things, or the current value, would be. In the case of future value, we may know the payments that are going to happen now or are going to happen with certainty, sort of, in the short term. But what we don't know yet is what we're going to wind up with at the end, what the final value is going to be. So think of that like an investment. We know what we're going to put in and over what periods we're going to put it in, and we want to figure out how much we should expect to be there at the end. And so in one case, we know one piece of information, we're solving for the other. That's the only difference between them. As I said, there is a mathematical and theoretical relationship between the two, and they are, quite frankly, the basis for, I don't want to put a percentage on it, but a lot of what we do in finance. Most financial decisions somehow are tied to the concept of present value and future value. So we're going to start the discussion of time value of money by talking about future value, mostly because I find that's something that's a little bit more intuitive for people. Then we'll sort of flip the tables and explore present value, and then we're going to wrap up with exploring some present value special examples, things that come up commonly in business. They're called perpetuities and annuities. They are things that commonly occur in business that need to be valued, and there's sort of a shortcut way of doing that rather than using the very lengthy sort of base case present value methods. That's the plan. Hopefully that'll be useful for you. Thanks.